WZAB Sweetwater, South Florida's only business radio station.
That's it. Turn it around.
It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Forget what they teach you in school. This is real life. Not Wall Street, but Main Street. A real show on what's really involved with starting and running a business. All the ups and downs. Our guests will answer your questions and provide you with valuable information. Stay tuned and join in the conversation. Call us at 305-541-2350. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
Hello, South Florida and all over the world. This is Jack Miller. A pleasure to be with you today. I'm here with my buddy and co-host Todd Cohen. Todd, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back, Jack.
I know. I was off for a week. First, I have to make an announcement. We have a new producer today, Ingrid. Wanda, sadly, is no longer with us. I'm very sad because Wanda and I and you had a great relationship and rapport, and I really want to, I'm not joking around now, I really want to thank Wanda for all her hard work on the show, and I'm sorry to see her gone. But there's an advantage to having Ingrid. You know what the advantage is?
Hi.
Hi, Ingrid. Ingrid doesn't speak English, and I don't speak Spanish.
Sometimes I speak English.
A little bit. So I told Ingrid I'm in a bad mood. I'm going to rag on the city of Philadelphia and the state of New Jersey. And I told her if I say anything inappropriate, bleep me out. She said she doesn't know what the 7 dirty words are. So I kind of feel like, remember when we were in school, you'd have a substitute teacher that you felt like you can get away with more with? I feel that's way with Ingrid. But Ingrid, welcome to the show. We're really excited. Those of you who don't see Ingrid, she's a very bonita señorita, a very pretty lady. Wanda was as well, but very excited, Ingrid, to the show.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Anyway, Todd, before we go on with the show, I just have to rag a little bit. I'm so stressed out, and I decided, I know why people, I mean, I knew before this, are supporting Donald Trump because people are so sick and tired of the government. Let me tell you what I spent this morning dealing with tax problems, real estate tax problems. So I'll give you an example of how screwed up and inept the government is almost across the board, and it seems they need to come down to real world. In New Jersey, for example, you can't pay your taxes unless you pay them in full. So I'll give you a real-life example. We have probably a couple dozen borrowers who are a year or two behind on their real estate taxes. I spoke to one of them. Their taxes are $6,000 a year. They're 2 years behind. They can't afford the $12,000, but they say they try to go into New Jersey and pay $1,000 a month. The state won't take the money. They're forcing the people into a foreclosure situation. And that's all across Jersey. That's a state law. I'm telling you, the people in New Jersey should have their head examined because they do everything they can to hurt business and hurt the consumer instead of trying to help them.
Yeah, they have real good schools and really bad government in New Jersey.
Terrible. And let me tell you, in Philadelphia, and again, I apologize to rag on about the government, but again, in a time when we need the government to help our people, it seems they're hurting our people. In Philadelphia, the city that I come from, and you come from too, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. I love the city, but they're so screwed up. They have a rule that if you own, let's say, 100 properties in Philadelphia, and you're delinquent on one of the properties, 50 cents in your tax bill or your refuge bill, or you don't get one license, you need a license in each property, they'll suspend your rental license on every property. They won't let you foreclose. They won't let you evict someone on one property. They turn off they suspend a landlord's GAD service. So for a guy who has a lot of properties in Philadelphia, as my company does, the city makes it impossible to deal with.
Right.
It's brutal. So
they're very, very unfriendly government for businesses, for people, for residents.
It's unbelievable.
The wage tax is horrible.
I'm going to send this show to the city officials in Philadelphia because they have no clue what they're doing. Instead of making it investor and business friendly, it seems they're doing everything in their power to make it unfriendly. So I want to get the heck out of Philadelphia instead of invest more there. Anyway, that's my ranting and raving about the cities. But anyway, I had a very good week last week. I was off for a couple days. I spent the time in Margate, New Jersey, as you were there a couple weeks before.
Yeah.
And I think I came up with a brilliant business idea. Let me run it by you and tell me what you think.
I'm excited.
Okay. So I think it was Saturday night. My wife and I are at the Borgata Hotel. I don't know if have you ever been there?
Of course.
Beautiful, packed. Literally, at 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's like 1 million people walking around. And the clubs don't open till 11 o'clock. So all of the, I don't want to use the word hotties, but all of the good-looking people come out. Of course, I don't fit in. My wife fits in, but I don't fit in. So what do we do? You can't get near the clubs because the music is so loud. I don't know how people think or talk in those clubs. So my wife and I sit in a lounge where we're watching all the people walk in and out. And I don't know what it is. I don't know. Do you like to watch people?
Of course.
Okay, really watching people. I did too. I love to watch people. My wife does too. Watching people is really talking about people because you don't just watch them.
Of course.
You
gotta get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah. So I decided that people dress totally inappropriately. You have 70 and 80-year-old ladies who are trying to dress like 40 years old. Then you have the people who shouldn't be in short, skimpy skirts, in short, skimpy skirts. Right? It's disgusting.
It's the worst on the beach, in clubs, anywhere you go.
Right. People, don't you get the feeling people need to look into a mirror before they get dressed?
I think they do look in the mirror, and I don't think they care. Look, it's the same effect that we have with all these reality talent shows that we put on TV. People love to watch the people fail, and they also love to watch the people who are dressed poorly, who can't sing, who have no talent. And people love watching the train wreck.
It is a train wreck. I'm watching all these girls, literally 1 a.m. I don't know how, I'm usually asleep by then, and all these girls who are dressed inappropriately. First of all, my theory is that they should wear more, hide your body, dress conservatively. They're all trying to dress skimpy.
It is the middle of August, Jack. You're asking a lot.
Let me tell you something. It's disgusting.
What gets me is when they do it in the middle of December and January. That really grinds my gears. But in August, I understand people are going to wear a little bit less.
The way I look at it, all bodies are beautiful, whether you're tall, whether you're short, heavy, thin.
Agreed.
Big behind, small behind. All are beautiful. You just have to dress appropriately.
Right.
So I have terrible look at me. I'm a 53-year-old bald guy who looks like I'm
a schlub.
A schlub.
There
who
you
looks
go.
like I'm 6 months pregnant. But I think I think I should be the fashion police for all women. So here's my business idea. It came to me Saturday night, like 1:30, 2 o'clock, sitting at the Borgata Hotel, that women, I don't want to say men too, but men too, they could take a picture of themselves before they go out. They text me the picture and tell me where they're going, what the situation is. I'm going to a club, I'm going to a wedding, going to a job interview, with a picture of themselves. And I'll send them back a thing, whether I think it's appropriate or they're not, or you need a longer skirt, or a higher top, or don't let yourself fall out.
So you basically are signing up to be the Joan Rivers, God bless
the
her
fashion
soul,
police,
posthumously for the masses.
That's right.
There you go.
And you do it online. You could send me a text. So I don't know what everyone thinks about that business, but I think it's a great business, and I think people will feel better about it.
People do need it, and it's not just women. There are men that just are ridiculous just as much. They wear shirts that are too tight.
Yeah, and
they wear pants that are too small, too tight.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, they roll things up that they shouldn't. They don't roll things up that they should. It's incredible.
And you can see the rolls. Believe me, I have my own.
I don't need to see any of it.
I understand. Dress more conservatively. That's my theory. If everyone would dress more conservatively, people would feel better.
Right.
My theory. And you know what else I was thinking? All of a sudden, where did the big butts come in? All of a sudden, everyone was running to the plastic surgeons to get bigger behinds. I think it's the Kardashian
People
syndrome.
like it. And
I
harken back to that 80s song, That Girl Is Poison, and you never trust a big butt and a smile. Wasn't that the credo?
I don't want to talk about this too much, but all butts are fine as they are. People don't need butt enlargements. I think the Kardashians came here from another planet, planted by the plastic surgeons of America to increase butt sales. What do you think of that?
People do pay a lot of money for those butt cheeks, and to each their own.
Okay.
That's what I say. We live in the land of plastic surgery down here in Miami. But, it is what it is.
So more important, you think people would pay me $5-10 for a review, quick review?
I don't know. We should get that guy with the electronic payment system back on here.
That's right.
Bitcoin.
They could pay Bitcoin.
Right. You should accept.
By the way, I got my Bitcoin. My Bitcoin almost doubled in value from 4 weeks or something.
You must be a wealthy man.
I think I went from like $8 to $16 or something like that. Anyway, let's get back to real life. We have a fantastic guest today. I'm really excited. Today's going to be pretty much all about real estate. It's going to be the Commercial Corner times 5.
We are getting back to our proverbial roots.
That's right. We have Steve Wallace, who happens to be a real estate attorney and general attorney I know he has an office in Boynton, Fort Lauderdale, in Miami. He's very well versed on real estate and all kinds of business things. He has some very interesting thoughts on the Miami and the South Florida real estate market we're going to get to in a few minutes. But first, let's play our motivational minute. We have a fantastic clip. Let's play that.
Tough. You're going to have stress,
Can you hear?
anxiety, depression, anger. You're going to have financial difficulties at some point in your life. You're going to have marriage difficulties. You're going to have business difficulties. But you got to get back up. One of my favorite quotes is from Rocky Balboa. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are. It will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him, her, or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You can take a hit, and you can keep moving forward. You can take another hit. Don't ever let your weakness destroy your greatness. Every one of you is born with greatness. Every one of you. But so many times we let weaknesses destroy it. I learned a valuable lesson at 19 years old that I was never going to let my past infect my future. That what's happened to me is not as important as what's happened inside of me.
Hey, I don't know.
When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at your life will change. I used to look at my life as a curse, as a reject. Now I look back at my life and it's a blessing.
I don't know about you guys, but I thought that was fantastic. That's by a guy by the name of Derek Clark. I never heard of him before the other night. I found him on YouTube. But what he says is so true. We all have trouble in our life. We all get knocked down. We all take punches. Look, I know me. I've struggled with everything. For some people, things seem to come easy, but it doesn't seem that way for me. But you have to just keep fighting your way through it and fighting your way through it. And you can't give up. And that's what I think a lot of people do. They just give up.
Isn't the best line in Rocky the "Hey, Rock, women make your knees weak"?
That's true. That's true. The world is run by women. I always say that. Women control the world. No question about that. You know, by the way, I was, every week I look for different material. There's so many great quotes in Rocky. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. It's a masterpiece.
Yep. We have to break in 2 minutes, but I want to set the stage before we break because when we come back from break, Steve's going to join us. As I said, Steve is an attorney. He's really a Class A guy. He does some workouts. He does some real estate. He does a lot of business law. What I found about Steve is he seems to be a very practical guy instead of when taking, some attorneys, I don't want to say have a bad rep for just taking your money and running and all they care about the money. Steve seems to really care about his clients and looks to be a solutions-based guy. And we're going to talk all kinds of things on the South Florida and Florida real estate market when we come back. We're going to break for a commercial now, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. When we get back, we'll bring Steve right on.
This is the Wall Street Business Network.
South Florida's only business radio station, 880 AM, The Biz.
Welcome back to It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Call us at 305-541-2350. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
Hey, thanks everyone for sticking with us. Thanks for joining us. Super excited to have Steve Wallace here with my friend Todd Cohen and I. Steve, are you there?
I am. How are you guys?
Good. Steve, I really appreciate you being here. I know you're super busy, and I know our audience is going to appreciate your wisdom and insight into the business and real estate world. So we're doing good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I actually learned a lot about life during the break, waiting to be on your show about your business idea, which is an excellent business idea, by the way.
You like that? I actually think, I know it sounds crazy, but I think people would do it. You know, I don't think people realize how, I don't realize how I dress. My wife has to tell me all the time. Every day, you dress bad, you're doing this bad.
Taking fashion advice from a schlepper is probably not the greatest thing to do.
But I am a schlepper on men. I am a connoisseur of women.
There you go.
Anyway, Steve, I joke around a lot, as you know, but I really do want to talk real estate because that's, beside being the fashion police for women, is my passion in life. Steve, what do you think, and I want to jump right into it, and then we'll give out your contact information and all that. But tell me what broadly you think of the South Florida real estate market. It's on fire, and I know you have some interesting views on it.
Well, it's on fire in certain pockets because when we're analyzing the South Florida real estate market, we have to kind of look at it in a couple different segments. There's Miami, which is a whole different animal, which we'll talk about in one moment. Then there's Fort Lauderdale, Broward County as a whole, and then Palm Beach County, north to basically Port St. Lucie area. So we can the easiest analysis is that generally points north will follow and be behind the Miami market by probably 6 months to 18 months. So just looking at the cycles, up until about 2011, but basically between 2005 and 2011, the Miami market was in a downturn, a deep, we call it the Great Recession. Then in towards the end of 2011, when the foreign capital markets started heating up and the currency exchange greatly favored foreign investment, there was an influx of foreign investment into the Miami market from about 2011, basically through the first quarter of 2015, and that really, bolstered the Miami condo market. However, since the first quarter of 2015, there's been a lot of indices that have reported that there's been a slowdown in the Miami market. And a lot of it is a result of that there's not as much foreign investment that's being made into these projects based on a variety of political as well as financial issues. So what we're seeing now is we're seeing a lot more investment being made into Broward County versus Miami-Dade County, and then slowly trickling to Palm Beach County. I put a seminar on for the boards of realtors in Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade County on pre-construction investing, and the Miami Downtown Development Association put a report out that the amount of inventory which is going to come to market in the next 3 years in Miami is basically going to last for the next 10 years. So based on those indices as well as the foreign investment issues, although on paper right now, if you're going to buy a unit right now and flip it or sell it quickly, it's a white hot market. But if you're going to have to wait another 12 to 18 months to get your unit delivered, I would be concerned, and that's why a lot of the pre-construction sales in the Miami, the downtown and the Brickell and the Miami Beach market have slowed down considerably, and a lot of them have also been put off the table, pending the outcome of the economy.
That's interesting. Well, you're definitely right about. I agree. When I say the South Florida market's is on fire, I'm talking about the Miami and Fort Lauderdale. But you're right. Where I live in Boca, for example, I'm underwater. If I had to sell my home today, we bought it about 9 years ago. It's probably worth 30% less than I paid for it. But the Miami, I didn't realize that the Miami market, that the indicators are lower, because it seems, again, and I'm not certainly the expert, it just seems they're putting up these condos right and left, and I would think they would have different pre-sales or they would have projections based on them, because if you're saying that it's enough to last 10 years, there's going to be a lot of sucking wind there.
Well, the way that the financing is structured is a lot different now versus the last go around. Right now, a lot of the buyers have a lot more skin in the game than they used to be. It used to be that the maximum that third-party investors would have inside purchasing condos was a total of 20%. Generally, it was 10% upon signing and then 10% at closing. Now, the thought is that even though there may be some uncertainty in the market, even if the property is underwater, the investors will have anywhere from 30% deposits all the way up to 70%. So the thought is, even if it goes down in value, the fact that they have so much skin in the game, they may not walk away.
Yeah, but any thought I've often wondered about that, because it seems the new model, since the market's changed, is the buyer buys these things pre-construction and has to give huge deposits that the builder used to effectively build the property with. And I always wondered, if a guy's buying a condo for $1 million and he has to give, 30-40% up front, and the builder tanks when the project's 3/4 done, what happens to the guy?
Unfortunately, I cut my teeth for the last 4 or 5 years dealing with those very issues. There was some talk before we got into the increased marketplace that there would be some type of bond or some type of insurance to protect or hedge against that very issue. Under Chapter 718 Florida statutes, which governs pre-construction condominium transactions, the only requirement is that 10% of the purchase price has to remain in escrow. Anything in excess of 10% of the purchase price. So, for example, if we're using the example I prior gave, which is if there's a 50% deposit, 40% of the purchase price can be dispersed to the developer for construction-related expenses. And the statute and case law is very broad concerning the definition of what that means.
Well, look, I know that because I have some clients who are developers, and what they're doing is they're using those buyers' down payment to a pre-sale down payment to effectively fund their down payment. So they're getting in the property with really no money, or I shouldn't say no money, the buyer's money.
Exactly. Well, it's the best thing. I mean, that's the big joke, because Florida has probably the most advanced or aggressive structure in favor of developers. Developers have to have very little skin, if any skin in the game, because basically to fund a developer's equity in the project, they basically hedge the deposits, and then once they reach approximately 50% pre-sales, which they have 50% of the construction costs in buyer deposits, then they can qualify in a loan. If the developer is extremely savvy, they can go in with little or no skin in the game and build the project. Why we had a lot of problems the last time around is because Lehman Brothers and Chorus Bank, which both no longer exist, only required 10% equity to get a construction loan. And as a result of that, you know the story. We've already unfortunately lived through it.
Yeah, no, the whole market imploded. But it seems to me that while the borrowers, have a lot of skin in the games, the developers don't, and they can still have the same implosion if there's a hiccup in the market because it's not their money.
I totally agree with you, Jack. Unfortunately,
it is what it is.
Well, no, it's not. It is not. It is what it is. It has to do with our friends in Tallahassee, and I use that term very loosely. The developer lobby is very strong versus the consumer protection for folks that are investing their entire life savings when they sell their home from Philadelphia and they want to move to South Beach and live out their golden years. I have some very sad stories where I've had clients that worked their whole life, sold their home up north, took all of their money into and invested in a beach condo. That the minute that they bought the beach condo, it was already $50,000 underwater. Now it's $200,000, $300,000 underwater. And unfortunately, right now we're working on trying to have them save their home by filing bankruptcy. It's very sad, and unfortunately it's a very, very commonplace, especially in this white-hot market. The big joke is I went to law school in New York, and a lot of my friends know that I'm a real estate lawyer in Miami. And the difference between a Miami lawyer and a New York lawyer is New York lawyers work at the speed of a snail, whereas in Miami we work at the speed of light because we want to get a deal closed before the market changes. If you look historically at the Miami real estate market, it's basically looking at somebody's EKG going up and down and up and down. It's a very unstable market. And when I teach, when I put on seminars for realtors in Miami, I always tell them that don't always think that the market is always going to go up. In Miami especially, it's an extremely volatile market.
Do you think that's so true with the single families? There's a lot of investors and speculators out there with the single family for $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, as much as it is these high-rise beachfront condos.
What we generally, and just again, I've been through like 2 or 3 different cycles since I've been an attorney here, and we see a lot more speculation in the condos. And you know what you're seeing now, because there's not a lot of waterfront spaces. A lot of the buildings are in the urban core and in infill redevelopment areas. I mean, areas that you would be shocked to think are being redeveloped, such as Overtown. Overtown is going through a major redevelopment right now, as well as Edgewater, which 10 years ago you didn't even want to walk outside during broad daylight. Areas that you would never, ever think would be a core of development. And, I mean, we can look back historically in the late 80s and early 90s when somebody said, hey, I want to redevelop South Beach, people thought they were crazy. And don't you wish you had some of the land back then that became developed and you would have that now?
Steve, I mean, aren't a lot of factors that are driving what you were just talking about? First of all, the skyrocketing price of land and the carry that developers are going to have to pay to carry land while they're getting approvals, and also the incentives that the government gives for doing a development in a blighted area like that.
Yeah, that's true. The other thing that that's unique to Miami is there is a new building code and a new master plan. It's called Miami 2020, and the density that is being thrown around in the redevelopment of the land development code is amazing. They are targeting the city of Miami to be a urban core. You will not, and once Brickell City Center gets built, you're not going to be able to have a car in Brickell. It's going to be like a large northeastern city like New York or Boston or Philadelphia, where you really can't have a car.
Steve, I hate to do this, but we have to break. Steve, could you give out your phone number or your email address real quick, 20 seconds, then we have to take a commercial break?
Sure. 561-877-6020, and our website is miarealestatelaw.com.
Steve, stick with us. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Don't turn that dial. We'll be right back.
Do you need long-term real estate financing? Gelb Financial is located right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and provides 30-year terms with no balloon payment whatsoever on non-owner-occupied residential and commercial real estate. With a minimum loan amount of only $75,000 all the way up to $5 million, we provide common-sense underwriting and quick closings. We don't require tax returns whatsoever. Call right now at 561-221-0900. Again, that's 561-221-0900.
Did you invest in a non-liquid real estate partnership? Do you want and need liquidity? There's finally an answer. Quick Liquidity is a direct buyer of real estate minority interest and tenants in common investments across the country. To find out if we would buy your non-liquid investment, call us at 561-221-0881 or visit us at quickliquidity.com. That's quickliquidity.com.
Welcome back to It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Call us at 305-541-2350. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us. On the phone and with us today, we have Steve Wallace, an attorney in South Florida and real estate expert. And, of course, we have our very own Todd Cohen at Marcus & Millichap, the leading #1 Superman of commercial real estate in South Florida. So we're super lucky today. Steve, let's continue on this. So, look, it seems to me that Brickell is just crazy right now. But you know what I think? A lot of the people who are buying in South Florida expect the market to keep going up. And I think they have at least the people I speak to have short memories and kind of aren't in it for the long haul, that they think their condo or whatever they're buying is going to continue to go up by, some of them say, oh, I expect it to go up 20% a year. And when I said that's just nuts on a prolonged basis, they looked at me like I had two heads.
Yeah, I mean, I even though a lot of the clients that I work with are extremely aggressive, and, you know, I pride myself on being solution-oriented and a problem solver, I'm always reining my clients in because a lot of my clients are developers that got hurt pretty bad the last go-around. And I'm telling them, listen, save your money. But instead, my client, one of my biggest clients, he's going out and he's, you know, starting a race team again. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, boy, here we go again.
Well, yeah, people have very short memories, and I think they have unrealistic expectations.
Right. I mean, I'm a big fan of cautious optimism. Yep. You always have to mitigate risk. But, you know, one thing I have to say and point out is, you know, first of all, the demographic trends that South Florida is experiencing are, in fact, real. They are happening. Oh, yeah. People are flocking down here in droves. They're flocking up here from South America. They're flocking down here from the north. Retirees continue to flood the market. Money keeps coming down here. That is really happening. Also, there is no new land that is going to be built or made or created in between the Atlantic Ocean and the Everglades. There's a finite amount of land, especially beachfront or close proximity to beachfront land, and therefore there are huge premiums put on that. So in order to, you know, build projects that are going to accommodate all of these people who are flocking down here and the people that are already here, frankly, and to turn over areas that aren't so good, you know, this is the best time we've had in ages where the cost of capital is so low and developers are coming in and providing amenities and new mixed-use facilities for all of these people. And it's a boom right now.
Yeah, the question is it going to be a bust?
There always is one. I mean, it's a cyclical thing, commercial real estate. It's just a matter of how profound the downturn will be or if and when it comes. But, you know, things are a lot safer now this time around than they certainly were in 2006 and 2007.
I don't know about that, but I think we have short Look, I was one of those guys who was beaten up, like Steve said, pretty bad. I mean, so I still have I'm maybe a little too beaten up. And you know what it is? What we went through is, I think, Steve, you said what's called the Great Recession was really a depression. It was a once in 70 or 100 years event. If we have a little blip where the market stays still or goes down 10, 20%, it's a different thing from what happened before.
Right. And also the condo market, by the way, is not the only commercial real estate out there.
Yeah.
There are other, you know, asset classes that are chugging along and are doing very well. And a lot of that stuff is amenities like shopping centers and like apartment buildings and like, you know, office buildings and like industrial flex buildings that are going to accommodate the growing demographic trends and allow for people who are flocking down here and all the people moving into those condos to have places to shop and operate businesses.
Yep. Steve, I have a question for you, and Todd, for you too. We do a lot of business with a lot of investors and investor flippers, guys who buy properties at sheriff's sale or buy them off market, handyman specials. They buy them for maybe $100,000, put 25 in or 50 in, and sell them for 200. And they're just selling mid-market, really all over South Florida, and we provide the financing. What do you think of that market? Remember, they're not selling to the high-end market. They're selling to what I call middle America.
Yeah, I mean, I actually personally, a partner and I, my former law partner and I, we actually were pretty involved investing in that particular sector, and I can tell you that's a sector where there's always a lot of opportunities. One of the things that I can tell you is that a lot of investors, especially new investors, look and they want to be the next, you know, Nelson Rockefeller or Donald Trump. But what I can tell you is if you're looking for the best cap rates are on the lower end.
Yeah.
And in the workforce housing sector. And I just wanted to, if I just may digress for 1 second, I just wanted to add a little bit of what Todd said. I was just, my comments were focused solely on the condominium market, but what I can tell you is the retail sector is extremely strong. I had to go up to a little farther north area, which is Port St. Lucie, which is basically about 2 hours north of Miami, which is still, on the housing side, pretty depressed. But what I can tell you is I was driving there, and there was new strip center after new strip center, new franchise after new franchise. I can tell you that Miami is looked at as, one of the most luxurious areas in the world, in line with Rio, in line with Monaco, in line with Monte Carlo. So I can tell you internationally, in the last 5 years, Miami is not that sleepy little southern town where, my grandma used to own condos and people would drive, pack into a car and drive in New York for a 24-hour bender. It's really a world-class destination.
No, 100%. By the way, you should see the smile on Todd's face because he sells commercial real estate, strip centers. That's his specialty. So he's grinning from ear to ear.
Send me some closings, Todd.
No, I hear you. Well, look, the retail market has to support the population base, and the population base in Florida is growing. And even though the retail is taking a hit because of the internet, there'll always be a certain segment, the Chinese restaurant, the grocery anchors, that have to be close, that can't be dealt with over the internet. So certain retail stores are fantastic.
People never cook in South Florida, I can tell you that. So restaurants alone will be in business forever.
I believe me. What is it with that? That's the truth. I think it's
my wife and I cook. We fancy ourselves, moderate gourmands. I like to grill every now and then, and we cook together when we can.
Yeah, I enjoy cooking too, but it seems like whenever you go to a restaurant, there's always at least like a 30-minute wait.
Oh,
even
my God,
in the most non-desirable restaurants.
That's why we started cooking.
Especially in Boca, which is not that far from our house. So
believe me, tell me, my wife is a fantastic cook. She just doesn't like to, so we know the deal. It's brutal. So what do you think of the general commercial real estate market to invest in, whether it be office building, multifamily, retail strip centers, things like that?
Well, as I mentioned, that I saw that there was some areas where the condo market is soft. I can tell you, if you look at the smart money, I mean, apartment buildings are going up like crazy, and apartment buildings are catching, and apartment building sites, like approved apartment building sites, are going at record numbers. So, and a lot of that has to do with a lot of folks are unfortunately being displaced on home ownership, and so that's one issue. The other thing is what we're also seeing now. For the first time in a long time, there are a lot of major office projects being proposed in the urban core. In the downtown Miami area, there's going to be a couple large office building projects, and also in the West Palm Beach market, there's going to be a couple large office building projects. I am not aware of any in the Fort Lauderdale market, but it's the first time in a long time where we've seen new office building development.
Fort Lauderdale is experiencing a lot of growth. It's especially in the Las Olas and Andrews Avenue areas, and also Aventura. Don't leave North Miami Beach and Aventura off that list because, I mean, there are cranes everywhere in that market as well.
That's for sure. It seems
we went to the mall on Sunday. I had to drive around for like 30 minutes finding a parking spot in a parking garage.
The traffic there is the worst on the planet.
Is it my imagination? This summer, doesn't it seem like there's still a ton of people here?
Well, school started. Now it's even worse. Tuesday, as of Tuesday, things just I don't understand down here. We're all from Philadelphia. I remember school didn't start until after Labor Day. When did school start in the middle of August? Where? Why? Why would you ever want to go to school in the middle of August?
I agree. Call Donald Trump. He's going to take
Well, to me, it also doesn't make any sense because where I grew up in Syracuse, and in Syracuse we would also go back right after Labor Day. I mean, it is so hot here in the middle of August. I don't know why the kids are going back to school when it's so broiling hot.
Must be a remnant from hurricane season when there actually were hurricanes and people missed school, and they just want to make sure they get it all in. But, they have the same problem up north with snow days these days. So,
Steve, can we talk about a couple more things? Because I got a whole list of interesting stuff. You're a fantastic guest. And talk to me. Let's talk, if you would, about commercial leasing from both the tenant side and the landlord side. What's important in a lease, what a landlord should look out for, what a tenant should look out for. And why I ask this, because I'm in the business and I talk to landlords and tenants all the time, and I think a lot of people don't really focus on the aspect of the lease from a technical point of view, and they sign the lease and then they say, oops, I didn't realize this was in it, or this should have been in it.
Well, just an unsolicited plug. I mean, it appears that at least in South Florida, like I'm licensed in New York and in Texas as well, and I practice in both areas. And it seems like here people just don't like to pay lawyers to do very simple things like review a lease. I mean, I also deal a lot in bankruptcy, and it's so many times we see a lot of companies file bankruptcy because they got stuck with a bad lease because they didn't spend a couple $1,000s at the most to have an attorney review the lease. As a landlord, generally you want to have as little responsibility in upkeep of the property as possible. You also want to have any time a tenant wants to make any type of improvement on the property, you want to have the right to approve the plans, require plans, and also if any work, if any type of maintenance item that a tenant is required to do that they don't do, you want to have the right to enter the property and perform that repair and obviously charge a premium. Those are all things that are extremely important to a landlord. Also, one thing that oftentimes goes unrecognized is when we're dealing in insurance. Insurance is probably one of the most important things that oftentimes gets glazed over. As a landlord, in the event that there's any type of casualty, you want to require the tenant to continue to pay rent because you have real estate taxes due. You have insurance due.
Steve, I don't mean
you have your mortgage payments due.
Steve, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we have to break for a hard commercial.
Sure.
I should have told you a minute ago. Stick with us. We'll be back in, 2 minutes.
Don't turn that dial. We will be right back.
Are you tired of dealing with unreliable banks and brokers who charge upfront fees and never deliver on their promises? You don't have to. Gelt Financial Corporation has been in business since 1989 and offers a stated income loan program for non-owner-occupied residential and commercial real estate investors. No tax returns required. What are you waiting for? Call Gelt Financial right now at 561-221-0900. Again, that's 561-221-0900. 561-221-0900.
Did you invest in a non-liquid real estate partnership? Do you want and need liquidity? There's finally an answer. Quick Liquidity is a direct buyer of real estate minority interest and tenants in common investments across the country. To find out if we would buy your non-liquid investment, call us at 561-221-0881 or visit us at quickliquidity.com. That's quickliquidity.com.
Welcome back to It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Call us at 305-541-2350. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
Hello, world. Thanks for sticking with us. We're so glad to be with you on this beautiful Thursday in Miami, and hopefully it's beautiful wherever you are. We got our main man, Todd Cohen from Commercial Corner, Marcus Milichep, and we're lucky to have Steve Wallace, attorney in South Florida, on the phone with us. Steve, I know we were talking about leases before, so I apologize for cutting you short. But why don't you finish up that and tell us from maybe a tenant's point of view what they should be looking out for when they sign a new lease or enter into a new lease?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's what I mentioned earlier, that the quickest way for a company to go out of business is not carefully reviewing their leases. Because most times when you're dealing in a shopping center, an office building, or a warehouse complex, generally the first document you're going to get is a standard landlord lease, which is totally skewed in favor of the landlord. So a couple points that you need to look out for, and this generally applies in any area, is that in any asset class, is that you want to make sure that the landlord can't relocate your business, because real estate, one of the main things is location, location, location. And if the landlord can relocate your space to anywhere in the shopping center, anywhere in the office complex, anywhere in the warehouse complex, the essence of real estate you've lost. Even if they're going to compensate you for the move, you still negotiate very hard that they cannot require you to be relocated. And another issue is that you want to look for, especially when we're talking in the retail class, is exclusivity. If you have a Chinese restaurant, you don't want your next competitor as a Chinese restaurant to also open up in the center. Especially, most importantly, in the retail class, that is imperative to the survival of your business. Other issues have to do with the fact, if we're dealing, again, as I mentioned earlier, is an insurance, as well as the other issue is oftentimes, and this again, and I'm sorry to focus mostly on retail, but this is an area that's very concerning, is if you're in a shopping center with an anchor tenant, i.e. a Publix, and if for some reason, and this happened a lot more when we're dealing with Publix's competitor Winn-Dixie, which went through a major downturn in the last 10 years and went out of business, you always want to try to negotiate. If you're reliant on a lot of foot traffic as a result of one of those anchor tenants, you want to have the right to terminate your lease if the anchor tenant goes out of business unless a similarly situated business came in. What we saw a lot in South Florida is that when Winn-Dixie went dark, then the Walmart neighborhood market came in and replaced a lot of those. So those are just very high points.
So what I call because we have a bunch of shopping centers, and I call them co-tenancy leases. So
Correct.
in other words, if there's an anchor and something happens to the anchor, you have the right to change your lease.
Correct. Or get out of the lease.
And conversely, as an investor or a landlord, those are the things that you dread most.
Yep.
Especially when you're looking to buy a new shopping center. That's the first thing that a savvy investor will look for, are the restrictions, the co-tenancy clauses, and everything else like that.
Or minimum sale clauses.
Sure.
We have minimum sale clauses in a lot of our leases.
That's right.
Yeah, percentages. So there's stuff like that. What about personal guarantees?
Well, I can tell you in South Florida, oftentimes a personal guarantee isn't even worth the paper that's written on. But always, as a landlord in South Florida, just the spirit of the market, you always want to have a personal guarantee. And what we're seeing a lot, in addition to real estate, I also do a lot of small business dispositions and acquisitions. And a lot of the deals that I've done in the last 3 or 4 years have had major wrinkles when it comes to the assignment of the leases. And landlords are being more and more picky in agreeing to accept an assignment of a lease from a new buyer of a business based on that. And we're seeing, and I've had so many cases in the last year where even if a client's giving a personal guarantee, that's not enough. And one of the pushbacks to it is if a landlord is looking at a prospective business or a tenant and they look and see not enough security, one thing you can always do if the tenant is liquid enough is propose to put a lot more security, i.e. 3 months' worth of security or 6 months' worth of security. That's a way to get a deal done.
And isn't the same thing on a PG, a personal guarantee? Instead of doing it, if I was the tenant, I would go to the landlord and say, look, I don't want to personal guarantee it, but I'll give you, 120 days notice or something of that nature to get out of the lease.
Well, in this market, that notice period really isn't helpful. You could try to get out of a personal guarantee by putting up more cash as security.
Gotcha.
Cash is king.
Always.
It sure is, especially in Miami.
I hear you. We have to wrap up in a couple minutes. Steve, I really appreciate you being with us. Could you give out your contact information again and maybe give everyone, I apologize, I should have given you a couple minutes just to give a minute or two about yourself and what your practice looks like and what kind of clients, when should someone call you and what you handle.
Sure. We have offices in all 3 counties. Our main office is in Palm Beach County, in Boynton Beach between West Palm and Boca Raton. We also have an office in Fort Lauderdale, and we have an office in downtown Miami. We have a toll-free number. It's 888-283-2105. And our website is MIA, which is an abbreviation for Miami, realestatelaw.com. And we handle 3 practice areas. I am a board-certified real estate lawyer. If you thought it was crazy to take the Florida bar, I took a separate bar on Florida real estate, and the Florida bar allows me to say that I am a real estate law expert. We also handle a lot of corporate transactions when folks are looking to buy and sell businesses, and we also work with small businesses raising money through different securities offerings. And then lastly, just as a result of surviving the Great Depression, so to speak, we've developed quite an expertise in a niche in working with bankruptcies and workouts, and also representing a lot of investors buying distressed assets. And again, it's truly a pleasure, Jack and Todd, to share the airways with you for the last hour. And, an excellent client for us is anybody that's looking to buy and sell real estate, buy and sell businesses, looking for a lawyer that's a result-oriented, deal-based lawyer to help them, grow their business and maximize their assets.
Steve, thanks again. We're going to have you on again. Todd, we only have like 30 seconds. You want to give your contact information?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Todd Cohen. I'm with Marcus and Millichap. If anyone is looking to buy, sell, refinance, or exchange real estate, I'm your man. Please give me a call anytime, 786-522-7021. You can find me at the Marcus and Millichap website. But again, my number is 786-522-7021. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jack.
And this is Jack Miller. Thanks for tuning in, and looking forward to seeing everyone next week. Have a great week, my friends. Make it a great day.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to tune in next Thursday at 3 o'clock on 880 The Biz. If you want to send in your questions, comments, or ideas for shows, please email jackmiller@geltfinancial.com. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business, or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.